There's a weird dynamic paradox, I guess I would say, around power and influence today. And I say that because if you look at social media or the media in general, just any communication mechanism, right? There are lots of people that have a platform, that have they're public figures, they have a voice which touches a lot of people, whether it be politicians or celebrities or media personalities or just public figures in general. They they have an audience, for lack of a better word, right? And their actions, right? If I could go on YouTube right now, I could put on the news, I can go on Twitter, any of those places, and I will find almost an infinite amount of those people making a case to me. They're trying to tell me right now the Republican National Convention's going on, so that's the big story. Last week it was the DNC. If it wasn't that, there's some riots happening. There's always something happening, and those people are endlessly, in some ways, shouting into the vortex, telling people, making a case for what they believe. The paradox of that dynamic is that they seemingly have the power. They have the platform, they have the audience, they have the voice. Yet their actions suggest that they don't have the power, that their audience does, that the people do, right? That's why they're making a case. That's why they're shouting it, because them by themselves means nothing, right? I'm speaking to a video right now that's likely not going to get that many views. There's not a lot of power in what I'm saying. But these people, somebody on Twitter who has 50, 100,000, a million, 5 million followers or whatever it is, there's power in that. Yet they are almost appealing, and in some cases it feels like begging people to hear what they're saying and listen to it. And it gets more interesting in that, so in some ways you look at the actions and you would say, well, the people have the power. They're the ones doing it. But in this weird dynamic, for many people, their most ardent followers, the people that are most passionate and supportive, they seemingly have no power because they are just following whatever that person is saying, right? In many cases, it would appear blindly to an extent, or maybe not completely blindly, but for various reasons, the flaws of the mind, or they genuinely believe they're on the right side, or whatever it is, they have this certainty that that public figure, that person is right. So they are just, the case that's being made, the information that's being fed to them, they're almost just digesting it and regurgitating it back. And like, yes, absolutely. So you get into this weird thing again, where the public figure is making a case and pleading almost to try and seek power, right? That doesn't seem like the action of somebody who's in power. But then you look at the people who seemingly they're trying to convince, and they don't seem to be acting like they have any power either. They're just accepting and saying, yeah, great. And you see this, right? If somebody disagrees, if somebody questions, typically what happens, is they're kind of outcast, right? They no longer are part of that group or that community. Either the person, the public figure, or their supporters will say, hey, there's no room for questioning that here. Like, we're on the right side, you're out. So you have this dynamic of the public figure and the people, their audience, and you're trying to figure out who has the power here. What is this dynamic of the power and influence that exists, right? What's really at play? And it gets very confusing. And again, if you just look at the actions of it, it doesn't really seem to make sense. It seems like nobody has the power. Like, they're both just trying to give the other one the power, but neither one wants it. And it's this game of hot potato where they're throwing it back and forth. So it's very interesting. And it's hard to explain how it got to that point. I mean, certainly you look at the public figure and you say, well, they're seeking that audience. They want that audience. So they're feeding them what they want to hear so that they will keep coming. So what they're doing is they're trying to keep feeding the audience, keep giving them the information that they want to believe. They already believed it, right? Because there's this faith in it. People that question are out. So it's you're speaking to people that already, you're preaching to the choir, almost literally. And that's their motivation, right? They are seeking power. The reason why they're making that case, why they're shouting so loudly, is they want to be heard, and they want the people who think like them, or in some cases they want to appear like they think like the people, whatever it is, to hear it and follow them, because then that gives them seemingly that gives them, in some ways, the illusion of power, I would say, because now they have this audience. But now they've become somewhat enslaved to this audience because they need to continue to feed them and give them what they want. So where does that leave us, right, in this dynamic and this paradox of influence and power? To me, as I've said a lot lately, the power, to me, seems to clearly reside with the audience and the people, right? They are what gives that public figure power, this feeding dynamic we just spoke of. If they stop accepting that message, if they stop liking, retweeting, shouting in support, protesting in the streets, driving boats to, celebrate somebody, whatever it is, now that public figure has no power. And that's why the dynamic is as it is, right? They need that audience to keep giving to them. So whoever it is, the public figure, the politician, Trump, you can go, from the top on down. The more I think about it, those people don't matter much, right? They are a reflection of the audience. They are just trying to mirror whatever it is that's going to give them the audience and the power that they need. So why is this relevant? Well, when you think about all the tactics from either side, really, it doesn't matter. I don't want to get into the politics of it for this discussion, but let's take the approach of a liberal or Democrats who are trying to, quote unquote, beat Trump, right? We need to get rid of Trump. So much of the focus seems to be just that. How do I beat Trump? How do I make him look bad? How do I discredit him? How do I do the things to beat him? And in many ways, that's the wrong approach. It's the wrong question. He doesn't matter in many ways. He only matters because his audience is there and they support him. If you can understand the audience, if you can figure that piece of it out and find out a way to speak to them and start to get them to not be his audience, that's the goal, right? And somebody might say, well, yeah, sure, obviously that's what they're doing, but you're not. You're not actually listening and understanding what their issues are and what they want to change, right? There's an assumption that's made often that, and again, it can go both ways, but that they are evil or incompetent, and that's all there is to it. So there's no use in talking to the supporters. We cut the head off the snake, and that's the solution. But I don't believe that. I believe you need to understand them, even if they are evil, some of them, or incompetent, or whatever it is. They are the power source. That's the thing you need to get to if you want to make a difference.